Korea, at least relative to the Olympics, and the fact that they are now talking about how to bring North Korean athletes there to Pyeongchang. That said, let's bring in Republican strategist Lauren Zelt, managing director of FP1 Strategies, and Adrian Elrod, former director of strategic communications for Hillary for America. So with a good morning to you both. I'm sure Alex. You're aware of the president's repeating that there's no collusion, it's dead. He's repeated it many, many times over the last months or so. But Adrian, with you being someone who's worked on the Clinton campaign, what is your reaction to these charges of collusion and the president's constant claims that there's nothing to it?
Well, a couple things, Alex. First of all, I cannot for the life of me figure out why President Trump continues to comment at all on the Russian investigation, since he is actually a subject of the investigation. So the fact that he continues to comment on this, tweet about this, is, disturbing and frankly perplexing in itself. But secondly, he's panicked right now. Anytime the president becomes very, very panicked, we see him tweet erratically. We see him say, lash out to reporters about, pivoting to the Clintons and pivoting to any other topic that he can talk about other than, really leaning into what's happening with the Russian investigation. So I think we're seeing him in full-on panic mode right now. But again, as somebody who's actually under investigation, it's perplexing to me why he's even commenting on this in the first place.
But to pick up on the word pivoting, Lauren, the president in the soundbite we were to have heard, he talks about Hillary Clinton and how she colluded with the Russians, how the DNC colluded with the Russians. So why does the president not move on from Hillary bashing now a year, 14 months later?
I think in politics, as in life, the past is no place to live. And I would suspect that some of the people around him, or at least I'd hope, are telling him to move on from this. My apologies to Adrian, but voters did reject Hillary Clinton in 2016. And what I think the president would be better served to do would be to talk about the agenda that he's got coming into this year. I mean, look, Republicans had a lot of momentum at the end of 2017, passing the tax reform package that's actually going to put money back into about the pockets of 80% of Americans or so. And what he should have done yesterday at Camp David was talk about what he and leadership on Capitol Hill discussed for the agenda for this coming year.
So the president, Adrian, has also cited Hillary Clinton in these tweets yesterday. He says in part that the Democrats and their lapdogs, the fake news mainstream media, are taking out the old Ronald Reagan playbook and screaming mental stability and intelligence. Actually, throughout my life, my two greatest assets have been mental stability and being, like, really smart. Crooked Hillary Clinton played these cards very hard and, as everyone knows, went down in flames. And he goes on then to call himself a very stable genius. So what do you make of all that? And is mental instability the card the Democrats should be playing right now? Or do these attacks cross the line? Do you think Americans really just want to get down to the brass tacks of what we can do to improve our lives? And this, as Adrian is saying, as Lauren is saying, the past is the past. Move on.
Yeah, no, absolutely. The past is the past, move on. But President Trump seems to have a very difficult time moving on from the Clintons. Look, couple things. Number one, if Donald Trump wants to nip this speculation about his mental health in the bud, then, go get a physical examination and release those results to the public by a doctor that's well respected. So that's one thing he can do to easily nip this in the bud if he truly does not have any mental health issues. Number two, during the campaign, Alex, you probably will recall that we used the term Hillary Clinton during debates, and we as campaign staffers who are speaking on the record for the campaign used the term temperamentally unfit to describe President Trump and the way he handles and reacts to certain issues. And I think that that is something that is still a very true term to describe him. We see it in his erratic behavior when he tweets. We see it in his narcissistic behavior, the way he handles a litany of crises. And he certainly not handle any sort of criticism, whether it's constructive or warranted. So, again, temperamentally unfit, I think, is a term that we still need to continue to focus on. He's giving us plenty of fodder to lend to that term. So that's where I think people need to kind of take a step back and focus on that as opposed to really leaning into his mental health. Because, again, we don't know. I'm certainly not a psychiatrist. Many people who are making these claims are not psychiatrists. And if he has this issue and wants to nip this in the bud, he should release his physical examination records publicly.
Yeah. And he is having that physical exam on Friday. We'll see if mental stability is part of that examination. But Lauren, White House senior advisor Stephen Miller was talking about his reaction to the questions of the president's fitness. He was on CNN earlier today. Let's take a listen to that.
It's tragic and unfortunate that Steve would make these grotesque comments so out of touch with reality and obviously so vindictive. The portrayal of the president in the book is so contrary to reality, to the experience of those who work with him, to my own experience having spent the last 2 years with him. You know, on the campaign, I had the chance to travel all across the country with the president on Trump Force One. It'd be the president, me, Dan Scavino, Hope Hicks, a few other people, going from rally to rally to rally to rally. And I saw a man who was a political genius.
Lauren, that sentiment is being played out publicly, certainly, but is that something that you believe is held privately by White House staffers and senior members of the administration?
Well, you know, like Adrienne said, you know, I'm also not a psychiatrist, so, you know, I don't feel qualified to weigh.
I know, and I'm not asking you to diagnose the president. What I'm asking you is to reveal from your reporting whether privately, as has been reported in many places, this book, Fire and Fury, and other places as well, that privately what Stephen Miller just said on CNN is not necessarily held by members of the administration. Have you heard that with your reporting?
Well, you know, what I hear, honestly, is that I think a lot of people do wish that he would practice a little bit more restraint, especially as far as Twitter is concerned. You know, I'm somebody that's in the business of advising candidates, and, you know, what we see play out on Twitter on day in, on day out, I think is what most people would say not to do. So, you know, I do think people would wish that he would practice a little bit more restraint, certainly, and stay on message and on the issues, because, look, ultimately, Hillary Clinton is not on the ballot in 2018, and Republicans have been in control of both houses of Congress and of the presidency. So we need to be out there talking about the issues and talking about what we're trying to do for the American people.
All right, Lauren Zelt and Adrienne Elrod. Thank you, ladies. Good to see you both. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Alex.
It's one of President Trump.